joining. I am Sanjeev Verma, a Senior Practice Manager from Security Testing Team of Palladium. So we will wait for a few minutes for other attendees also to join, and then we will start. Okay, I apologize for making you wait, and we started a little late today, but let's begin the session. So, topic for today's session is how to effectively manage your security configuration. But before I get down to the actual topic, I'll introduce you to some of the terminologies I'll be using throughout this session. To start with, I'll walk you through some of the breaches that has happened in the past and will mention what Gardner and Sands have quoted about SCM. By SCM, I mean Secure Configuration Management. Then I will explain what is standalone SCM and what we mean by contextual SCM and why contextual SCM is beneficial. I'll also explain why it is important to complement SCM with vulnerability scan and firewall rule-based audits. After that, I'll highlight some of the challenges of traditional SCM, and we will see how those challenges can be tackled with a well-planned SCM program. Later, we will see what it takes to run an effective SCM program and limitations of current age tools. And finally, I'll present a case study of a global bank where we have implemented this SCM program. Some of the terminologies you should be familiar with are security policy, security standard, baseline, and secure configuration management. I'll explain these terminologies one by one. Security policy is a general statement by the management to convey what security means to the organization. Security standards are derived from security policy, and it defines the mandatory set of rules to be followed and activities to be performed. It covers all aspects of security, I mean physical security, environmental security, personal security, and IT security. Baselines are derived from security standards, and it defines the minimum level of secure configuration any IT system like server operating system, network devices, security devices, databases, web servers, etc. should have to defend against attacks. These documents are also referred as checklist and secure configuration document. Organizations like CIS and ANALYSTS publish secure configuration documents for different platforms, which could be referred while developing the baseline for an organization. Secure configuration management is an act of reviewing the configuration of an asset against the established baselines, and deviations are documented. Secure configuration management is also called as patch and configuration audit, baseline management, configuration assessment, secure configuration review, and secure configuration audit. Now, you all are familiar with SCM and different terminologies of SCM. So let's see some of the breaches that has happened due to insecure configurations of the systems. TJX is an American apparel and home goods company based in Framingham. TJX was attacked in 2007, and its internal network was compromised, and the reason was insecurely configured wireless access point and kiosk. Heartland Payment System is a US-based payment processing company which is headquartered in Princeton, New Jersey. It was attacked in 2008 and malwares were installed on their systems. The root cause for the successful attack was insecurely configured system. Microsoft was attacked in 2009 and Bing search engine was offline for some time, and yet again reason was insecurely configured system. Sony, one of the largest consumer electronics company, was attacked in 2011 and users' personal information was compromised due to insecurely configured systems. File hosting service provider Dropbox was attacked in 2011. In this attack, data of other users were accessed. Last but not least, Utah Department of Health is a hospital chain in US which was attacked in 2012 and millions of social security numbers were stolen. So what was common across all the breaches we saw was the root cause, and it was insecurely configured system. What is more interesting to know is that 70% of these attacks targeted servers. Most of the attacks were not very difficult to perform, and 90% attacks could have been avoided by proper patch and configuration management. These facts were published in Verizon's data breach investigation report. So now we know why secure configuration management is important. The importance of SCM is also acknowledged by experts and analysts like Gartner and SANS. Gartner considers configuration management as a must-have control and says it is essential to do configuration hardening to defend against targeted attacks. And SANS has listed secure configuration of critical assets in its top 10 critical control list. This very much explains why SCM is needed. Now let's understand the types of SCM. But before we go to the next slide, I have a quick poll for you. Please spare a couple of minutes and answer these questions. I'll just share the questions with you. You could quickly answer these questions. It won't take more than 2 minutes. Okay, pardon me. It seems there is some problem with the polling functionality. So I'll continue with the session. Okay, so let's go to the next topic, that is the types of SCM. SCM can be broadly categorized as standalone and contextual. Standalone SCM is fairly simple, where an analyst reviews the expected configuration of the host against the established baselines, assigns risk rating, and documents the findings. This can be done with the help of an automated tool or a manually it could be done. But what about all the compensatory controls that the different layers of protection provide to an asset? Won't it affect the assessment results? Well, the answer is yes, and that's why we need contextual assessment. In the first step of contextual assessment, analysts first understands the environment in which asset or host operates. I mean the network segmentation, different communication channels, entry points, and multiple layers of controls provided by the technologies like firewall, network IDS, proxy, or content filtering devices, password management systems, and host-based firewalls or IDS. All these controls are considered while doing a contextual assessment, and the whole environment is understood by the analyst. Analyst gains this knowledge by interviewing the ID support team and analyzing the network diagram. In the next step of contextual SCM, just a second. Okay. It seems polling has started, and I continued with my session. So I'll just wait for you to complete the polling. Okay, thank you everyone. It seems everyone has completed the polling. Thank you for answering those questions. So I'll continue with this session, and I'll move to the next topic, that is types of SCM. Okay, so SCM can be broadly categorized as standalone and contextual SCM. Standalone SCM is fairly simple, where an analyst reviews the expected configuration of the host against the established baselines, assigns a risk rating, and documents the finding. This analysis can be done with the help of an automated tool, or it could be done manually. But if you look at this slide, previous in the standalone configuration assessment (SCM), none of the other network components or operating environment of the host was considered. It was not considered while doing the analysis. But in case of contextual SCM, we look at different layers of controls that is present in your network. The analyst first understands the environment in which asset or host operates. I mean the network segmentation, different communication channels, entry points, and multiple layers of controls provided by the technologies like firewall, network IDS, proxy, or content filtering devices. Password management systems and host-based firewalls and IDS can all, these also play a role in protecting your end machine. So a fair understanding of all this network setup and other compensatory controls are a key ingredient to do a contextual assessment. So analysts gains this knowledge by interviewing IT support team and analyzing the network diagram. Next step in contextual SCM is to create an accepted risk database based on the understanding of IT environment, risk acceptance framework, and by interviewing the IT support and security teams. At any stage of SCM, if a risk is accepted due to whatever reason, it gets updated in the accepted risk database. In the third step of contextual SCM, analyst performs configuration assessment by comparing the extracted configuration of the host against the established baseline. This assessment could be done manually or via an automated tool. In the final step of contextual assessment, all the insecure configurations identified in the previous step is analyzed by the analyst to see whether any of the compensatory control mitigates the associated vulnerability or not. Analyst also checks if any of the identified insecure configurations are falling in accepted risk category or not. Based on this analysis, findings are categorized as low risk, accepted risk, and vulnerabilities. Later, a risk rating is assigned to each of the vulnerabilities, and finally, the findings are documented. So now, let's look at a quick comparison of standalone and contextual SCM. In a standalone assessment, environment in which target host is placed is not considered, whereas contextual assessment considers host, operating environment, business exceptions, and compensatory controls before arriving at a vulnerability. This gives a holistic view of the vulnerability. Contextual assessment also helps in reducing the false positives, which is not the case with a standalone assessment. Solutions provided in a contextual assessment are more effective as compared to standalone assessment. Now, consider a scenario in which, due to some business requirement or some constraints, SNMP version 3 cannot be implemented to mitigate vulnerabilities associated with SNMP v3, which is the current version of SNMP in your network. So, in case of contextual SCM, an analyst would know this exception and recommend to use non-default and strong community strings. But in case of a standalone assessment, this business requirement may not be known to the analyst. Hence, he will end up recommending implementation of SNMP v3. So that is why we are saying, solutions of contextual SCMs are much more effective. So this effective solution and lesser false positives reduces the remediation effort in case of contextual assessment, which is not the case in standalone assessment. Full automated analysis is possible in case of a standalone assessment, but contextual assessment cannot be fully automated. I mean, manual analysis is necessary for contextual assessment. Contextual assessments are expert-driven as it needs in-depth analysis of the network and a lot of correlation. On the other hand, standalone assessments can be performed with the help of an automated tool and an analyst with an intermediate skill level. So this comparison must have given you an idea of why contextual assessment is beneficial. In the past, we have seen that standalone or contextual SCM is not enough to discover all the vulnerabilities of a system. Hence, we recommend that SCM is complemented with vulnerability assessment and firewall rule-based audit. For example, if a device that stores the password in an encrypted format, then even if a default password is set, it will be stored in an encrypted format, and it may be very difficult to discover this weakness during the SCM activity. But during a network vulnerability scan, this weakness or this vulnerability can be very easily identified and confirmed because the scanner tries to log into the host with the known default credentials. Also, different services using SSL may use weak ciphers. The settings may have enabled the usage of weak ciphers, which may go unnoticed during an SCM, but can easily be detected during a vulnerability scan. Moreover, vulnerability scan provides proof of concept for any weakness that is identified. On the other hand, firewall rule-based audit is useful in cleaning up the firewall rules, identifying rules that allows wide access. For example, if you look at the access rule written on the slide, it allows all the traffic coming from untrust zone to trust zone for any IP. If your firewall has this rule, will it provide any security at all? Obviously, it will not. So, if firewall ACLs are not configured properly, then it may leave a big hole in your network defense. Hence, firewall rule-based audit should also be done as part of SCM program. Alright, so I just explained that standalone and contextual assessments, and I also explained the benefits of contextual assessment. But why do we need a SCM program? We know what do we mean by SCM, Secure Configuration Management, or you could also call it a Secure Configuration Audit. But what do we mean by SCM program? Why it is required? Well, I'll answer this question by listing some of the challenges organizations have faced with in running the SCM project. So traditionally, SCM was seen as a one-time activity and not as a program. Standalone SCM was done in an ad hoc manner without clearly defined objectives. This approach did not ensure full coverage of the critical assets, and also assessment of legacy and lesser known technologies or platforms were overlooked. High volume of assets and vulnerabilities resulted in manageability issues. High volume of false positives wasted IT support, effort, and time, where false negatives resulted in unidentified vulnerabilities. Moreover, configuration changes were performed without any proper change control in place, so it was next to impossible to maintain a desired security posture once it is achieved. So I hope now it is clear to you why we need an SCM program. Now let's look at some of the vital elements of an effective SCM program. First and foremost, it provides direction to the program and ensures the acceptance of the program across different departments and teams. This would also ease up the program implementation and execution tasks. Set objective. So objective of a program should be well defined. Objective of a program could be to meet the regulatory requirements or internal policy compliance. No matter what the driving factor is, core focus of any SCM program should be the security of the asset. Clearly defined objectives helps in setting priorities, doing work breakdown, and in defining measurement metrics. For example, if you know that you are creating an SCM program so that you could get compliant to PCI DSS, then if your objectives are clear, you'll be able to prioritize and carry out the assessment for certain hosts or assets or servers which holds the data card as credit card, which is just some sort of credit card processing, and remaining assets can be prioritized based on their criticality as well. So that's why defining the objective is important. On a different note, many times I have observed that for the sake of getting compliant to regulatory requirements, organizations get the secure configuration assessments done, but remediation process is overly slow. Means focus on remediating those vulnerabilities and fixing those vulnerabilities, looking at the network from in a holistic manner and securing their assets. It's just a firefighting that goes on. Have defined roles and responsibilities, because a SCM program has many functions like developing and maintaining baselines, inventory discovery, secure configuration, review, remediation and risk acceptance, etc. Hence, it should be ensured that skilled people are identified and responsibilities are assigned to them. It could be a full-time job or a part-time job, depending on the volume of the assets and other factors. This eases up the employee's work and helps in speeding up the execution. Perform inventory discovery. It is one of the key exercises which includes coordination with different teams. An outcome of this exercise is a list of critical assets which would be included in the SCM scope. To ensure the exhaustiveness of this list, post-discovery scan should be performed and final list should be vetted against the network diagrams as well. Develop and maintain baselines. In this phase, main objective is to make a list of unique platforms identified during the inventory discovery phase and creating the baselines for the platforms if it is not already present. During this exercise, CIS and ANALYSTS standards were verified. If a configuration audit tool like Encircle, Nessus, etc. have been procured by your organization, then its policy should be customized to suit organization's requirement. Data and communication plan. So develop a data and sharing and communication plan, because success of any program depends heavily on an effective communication and regular reviews. In this phase, identify the teams and persons involved in SCM program, set up channels for secure communication and data sharing, define schedule for regular review meetings. Since a lot of sensitive data is exchanged between the teams during the SCM, it is critical to identify a secure way of sharing the data. A great tool for review meetings is MIS report. So define the metrics, create templates for MIS reports, and decide the frequency of creating MIS reports. This also ensures security of sensitive data and expedites the assessment. Now, in this phase of contextual assessment, we suggest you to perform contextual assessment as opposed to the standalone assessment, as we have already seen the benefits of contextual assessment on the previous slides. We also recommend to complement vulnerability scan and firewall rule-based audit complement SCM with vulnerability scan and firewall with rule-based audit. This benefit also we have seen because SCM is not, cannot discover all vulnerabilities present in your system. Hence, complementing it with firewall rule-based audit and vulnerability scan helps. Remediation is one of the most challenging tasks, as people who are responsible for implementing the fixes often don't see this as their primary responsibility and are worried about they are more worried about service disruption. Moreover, updating or patching a complex and critical system could be a tough task in itself. But if remediation is not performed properly, then the whole purpose of SCM is meaningless. Hence, it is important to get very accurate results from the SCM, devise a remediation strategy based on the risk rating and implement the fixes in a time-bound manner. Tracking the progress is also crucial here, as multiple teams and individuals are involved. Review phase. SCM program may become ineffective as the time passes by, because the IT environment and the business requirements change over time. Hence, assess the security posture and extrapolate the effectiveness of the program. If the SCM program is failing to live up to the expectation, then corrective measures should be taken. Achieving a desired security posture with the help of SCM is tough, but sustaining the security posture is even tougher. But it can be achieved by validating configuration change requests before approving and keeping a record of the changes made. I mean change control. There should be an effective change control process also integrated with an SCM program. Also ensure after any major change, a reassessment of the host where changes has taken place. A reassessment is done with SCM, confirmatory SCM we call it. Be persistent. SCM is not a one-time activity, but an ongoing activity. So, because as we discussed that business requirement changes over time, threat landscape changes over time, and there could be new vulnerabilities, creeping in your systems. So, SCM it is not like you do the assessment once in a year or once in 2 or 3 years and have that wrong notion of that your systems are secure. So depending on the criticality of your asset, you could decide on the frequency that at which your system should be assessed. This ensures that okay. So alright then, I have explained what an effective SCM program should have, but does it overcome the challenges of traditional SCM? So we discussed the challenges of traditional SCM on the previous slides, but and then we discussed the elements of an effective SCM program. But the question is, will it solve the problems of a traditional SCM? Well, the answer is yes. We'll see how. If you look at this table, the coverage issue is resolved by inventory discovery component. Baseline development and maintenance component takes care of the assessments of legacy systems and lesser known platforms. Manageability issue of high volume of assets, vulnerabilities and false positives is resolved by asset classification and contextual assessments. Issue of false negative is resolved by complementing SCM with vulnerability scan and firewall rule-based audit. Since SCM program and baselines are aligned with organizational policy and standards, and since false positives are not present in the assessment results, it drastically enhances the acceptance of SCM program and assessment findings within the team, which helps in driving the mitigation task. Continual assessment and integration of SCM program with an effective change control ensures that the security posture of the organizations improve and it's sustainable. So, there are a number of tools available for automating SCM like Syscat, Nessus, Encircle, Cent, Nextpose, etc. But they don't support all the platform that is available in the market. So for unsupported platform, baseline development and manual assessment would be needed. In certain cases, even if the tool has the platform support, we will not be able to use the tool if hosts are present at a remote network with no VPN connectivity. Yet another challenge is an inability of these tools to do contextual analysis. Hence, manual analysis by an expert is needed. Whenever you want to do a contextual analysis, manual effort is required. However, there are few tools like Canvas and Skybox that may come in handy while performing contextual assessment because they have limited capability to do contextual assessment. They can also do some sort of host discovery and invented discovery tasks in an automated fashion. Okay, so till now we have talked about different SCM components and how to develop and enforce an effective SCM program. Now let's look at a case study for one of the leading international banks, which has 1,700 plus branches spread across 70 countries, and where we have implemented the earlier discussed SCM program. So the bank is ranked among top 20 companies of FTSE 100. FTSE is a share index of 100 companies listed on London Stock Exchange with the highest market capitalization. We started doing standalone SCM for the bank, and over the period of time, we have implemented a full-fledged SCM program at the bank. In this program, except sharing the initial inventory, mitigation and vulnerability tracking, almost all the responsibilities was carried by Palladium. We are serving the bank since 2008, and we have done the assessment for 27 unique platforms. We have assessed 4,196 assets, which are spread across 85 regions. We have also performed penetration testing on 12 web applications of the bank. Last financial year, we tested approximately 100 assets per month and coordinated with multiple teams spread across 50 countries. So, success factor for the this SCM program for the bank was the defined roles and responsibilities, proper data sharing, communication and status tracking plan. This ensured that data is being handled securely, and it helped in expediting the data sharing among the team and improving the overall efficiency. Though Palladium had baselines for different platforms, it was customized and synchronized with bank's security standards and was used for the assessment. It helped in better acceptance of the identified vulnerabilities among the bank's support teams. An indicator of this benefit is 40% reduction that we recorded in the support tickets and support queries raised by bank's support team. We did inventory discovery and validation for the bank that gave assurance to the bank's internal and external auditors about the coverage of the assessment. And it helped the bank in achieving the compliance because it was one of the findings in the initial reports of an external auditor. Over the period of time, our customers, that is the bank's IT environment, has changed. And at the same time, threat landscape for different systems has also changed. It has evolved over the period, and more sophisticated attacks have been seen in the wild. So, developing and updating the baseline on a regular basis has helped the bank in achieving an accepted level of security. Adoption of contextual assessment has resulted in reduction of false positive. So this can be, we derived this result from the matrix wherein we were tracking the total number of vulnerabilities we were reporting and total number of vulnerabilities per asset. So if you see, on an average, 4 vulnerabilities per host were reduced after introducing contextual vulnerability assessment or contextual SCM. Overall, 3,378 vulnerabilities were reduced. Adoption of contextual assessments also enabled Palladium to provide better solutions, which is evident by approximately 40% reduction in support tickets, which eventually reduced the bank's support team remediation effort as well. Complementing the SCM with firewall rule-based audit and vulnerability scan has helped in reducing the false negatives. On an average, 2 new vulnerabilities were identified, which were not identified during SCM. Overall, 1,645 new vulnerabilities were identified. So now, if you look at the vulnerability trend graph, in 2011-12, total number of identified vulnerabilities across 1,200 plus assets were approximately 11,000. This number went down to approximately 8,400 in 2012 and 13, and further went down to 7,700 in 2013-14. In the during the 2013-14 financial year, reduction in total number of vulnerability was relatively lower, if you could, as it is visible from the graph. This is because banks' IT environment changed significantly for some of their business units. If you look at the graph in red color, this graph shows the general trend that would have been seen in the absence of a SCM program. As per this trend, there is a year-on-year increment in total vulnerability count. So I hope this graph pretty well summarizes the importance and need of an SCM, effective SCM program. So if you have any queries, then we can discuss it now. So do you have any queries? Okay, so first question is, do we have any open source tools for SCM? Okay, as of now, I have not come across any open source tool for performing SCM, but there are certain open source tools that can be used for vulnerability scanning and your firewall rule-based audit. So vulnerability scanning up to some extent can be done with the help of ANMEP using NSA scripts, and firewall rule-based audit tool, the sniffer can be a handy tool there. But for doing a secure configuration audit, I have not come across any open source tools. Okay, next question is, can we do automated server assessment for Linux and Windows systems? Answer to this question is, yes, we can do automated assessment for Linux and Windows systems. Many of the tools that is currently available in the market, they support these well-known platforms, that is Windows and Linux, and different flavors of Linux also is supported. But as we saw, these tools will be able to do a standalone assessment, a standalone SCM. Contextual SCM, this tool will definitely assist, but some sort amount of manual effort will go in if you want to do a contextual assessment. Next question is, could you please provide documentation of the explanation you have presented now? Yes, definitely I can. I'll share this PPT also with you post this session. Any other questions? Do you have any other questions, or shall we conclude the session now? Okay then, so no more question. We'll conclude the session. Thank you everyone for joining today and taking the poll as well. Have a nice day.